There are so many new methodologies and techniques and tools that are kind of constantly being introduced. People can be a little bit hesitant about changing the way that they work or adopting a new framework for working. And so a prioritization workshop can be a really great way to bring that new approach in, get people to experiment with it, and then adopt it more widely. Lastly is the prioritization workshop. So we've talked a little bit about that in sort of some of the previous examples, but there's always a case for, having a workshop that maybe you've got a really long backlog, or you've got some customer support data that shows there's like a list of areas where you're having problems on your website and you want to pick one to move forward with. Having a prioritization workshop, you can kind of bring some of that information in. You can have a cross-functional team, and then you can go through some activities where you're ranking features and ideas. You're kind of mapping those up against the service delivery that you're trying to provide to your customer, and then you can build consensus around how to move forward. A lot of times this is a really great way to have an outside group come in and facilitate a workshop. Like if you know what your priorities are, but other people don't see it from the same perspective, then sometimes if you have an outside source of authority coming through and setting the stage to help them see why your idea or your particular priority is important, then they'll take it more seriously, or they'll be a little bit more open-minded about engaging with you in this like playful space, so that you can kind of like promote the path forward that you perceive or you envision. And so there are lots of activities that you can do around that. Future state mapping. There are a variety of different matrices that you can fill out. You can kind of prompt discussion around, and then get people to give you ideas of things that you can kind of put in, so that you can figure out, what is going to be the most efficient path forward for the least amount of money, or where's the biggest bang for our buck. All of those matrices are really great for kind of getting people to actually see what's happening with these ideas.
And I think it's a major factor, right? Because a lot of people go through the process of figuring out the problems, figuring out the solutions, but then they just need a little push, right? You need to push forward, and sometimes you have so many options to go with, you get stuck, you get paralyzed, that you don't know which decision to jump into. This definitely clarifies that and gives you the push and gives you the priorities to for the next steps.
Yeah, especially like in UX and customer experience, like there are so many new methodologies and techniques and tools that are kind of constantly being introduced. People can be a little bit hesitant about changing the way that they work or adopting a new framework for working. And so a prioritization workshop can be a really great way to bring that new approach in, get people to experiment with it, and then adopt it more widely. It's hard at work. I mean, I'm guilty of it too, Some weeks I just want to...
The one thing to remember, it takes 21 days to build a habit.
Yeah, right. It's tough.
This is where I call it a support system, right? These workshops are not only to clarify things and not only to move things forward, but you have a support system, that gives you the boost and the confidence to take the next steps, to take the drastic steps of change, break the legacy way of doing things. So I think and it's an outside-in look, right? Bring on board a third-party agency to run a workshop. They're coming in completely emotionless. They have no marriage to your product or to your business. And so you have an outside look, in look and a perspective, and you have kind of that cold, hard love, hard love type of approach. Yeah. You're saying, look, I get it, you're emotionally attached, but this is what's good and this is what's right for the business and for the company.
Definitely. I think as like outsiders, oftentimes you can come in and maybe you have somebody who's like on the front lines, interacting with customers regularly, and they have an idea. And then in the workshop, they're just not being listened to by some of the higher ups. And that's what a good facilitator is there to do, is to kind of break down that imbalance of power so that if somebody has a really strong idea, it's being presented equally with everybody else's idea. And then you can kind of help that person feel more comfortable speaking up, or if that person has, like, you see that there's somebody who's willing to be an ally for them, you can create a space, an opening for them to express their opinions and their beliefs. I also think, just from the outside in component, I see patterns everywhere because I'm working with so many different teams across e-commerce. And oftentimes when you're an in-house team, you just aren't getting that element of like what other people are doing because you're so focused on your own space. And there's a lot of power and importance to that, just understanding like what other patterns are starting to emerge, where is the industry going, and consultants and workshop facilitators, they're really, in agencies, they're all on the front lines of those patterns that are developing. So basically the way that, the workshops are set up at the core, we can do a lot of customization work that we mentioned at the beginning of this recording. But a lot of times what I sort of start with is a 2-hour workshop. So that's a pretty quick flow, but oftentimes, when you see a block of like 2 hours taken off on your schedule, it can be a little bit like, whoa, how am I going to get anything else done that day? So it's kind of starting with a 2-hour workshop, introductions, having teams do like a readout. Maybe you've given them some homework to kind of bring into the workshop, so you get a few minutes to kind of have each team or each cross-functional team member present where they are on the project or what their area of expertise is. Then you kind of introduce a current state discussion. So why are we here? What's working? What's not? And then you do a brainstorm, so you just either as a single group, if it's a small workshop, or in breakout groups, you can send people off into different breakout rooms on Zoom, and you have them kind of develop some really big ideas based on the current state. So whatever the goal is of the workshop to solve, this is where we're going to start with the ideation. And then you come back and you present and prioritize. So you narrow a little bit of a break, and then you kind of do it again. And usually this brainstorming and presenting and prioritizing, it's through the perspective of a particular activity. So we're just not like, okay, here's a question, go off and brainstorm. Oftentimes there's like an element of sketching, or people have been given like a black hat to put on, so they're doing it through the lens of a particular perspective for the project. And then, at the very end, you kind of want to wrap everything up very nicely and spend a couple of minutes just talking about like, what is the next step forward? We've developed the outcomes that we did the outcomes that we have from the workshop match the goal that we started with, or have we ended up in a completely different space? And so you want to just take a moment at the very end of the workshop to have an alignment discussion to kind of figure out where everybody's headspace is. And that agenda kind of follows the double diamond pattern of convergent and divergent thinking. So you discover and then define, and then you develop and you deliver. So the first section of the workshop is really built around answering the question, like, what are the problems? And then the second element of the workshop is like, what are some solutions to the problems that we've previously uncovered? There we go. Now we're done.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Elaine. This was a phenomenal presentation, and I really enjoyed our conversation, as always.
Yes, thank you.
We can definitely establish these workshops for pretty much any type of business, any type of company.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different ways that you can set up a workshop like this. It's oftentimes just having a really simple conversation, 30 minutes. What's keeping you up at night is a really great way to start that discussion. And then, we can develop a proposal for...
Start a discussion for some people.
Yeah.
Different things keeping them up at night. But definitely, I think, in reference to brands that are dealing with, for example, digital transformation, and they're kind of stuck and they don't know how to break out, it's definitely something that we can come in and, help them establish, find the tools, find their approaches, find different ways to help them serve their customers. Those brands that do have it, still are operational, still do, fulfillment. We can help them improve conversions, improve user experiences, just improve customer experience altogether. Yeah. Then we can always, workshops always work great for ideation, right? People have thoughts, ideas, and they just need, a team of experts, from different industries or different arenas to give them feedback, right? And this is definitely a workshops can be great for that.
Totally.
discovery of that, of those ideas. Thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, please shoot us an email at hello@nanowebgroup.com. And me and Elaine will be doing a lot more of these workshops. And we're happy to do private workshops as well. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.